Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. It was a sunny afternoon in a quiet American suburb. Two police officers, known for their subtle but persistent racism, were patrolling the streets, scrutinizing every vehicle with suspicion. When they spotted a black family car stopped at a red light, their biased instincts kicked in. They decided to pull it over, convinced that something was wrong. The father, a calm and methodical man, politely opened the window. Inside, his wife and children watched the scene with a mixture of incomprehension and nervousness. Without preamble, the police officers began asking aggressive questions, insinuating that the family was involved in illegal activities. Their tone was sharp, their eyes filled with contempt. But what they didn't know was that this man was no ordinary citizen. Beneath his unassuming exterior hid a CIA agent, trained to handle all kinds of dangerous situations, accustomed to keeping his cool even under the most intense pressure. His years of service had prepared him to anticipate the worst, and this unexpected confrontation with two racist police officers would quickly show them that they had underestimated their target. As tensions rose, every gesture and word of the police officers was observed and calculated by the officer. What should have been a simple routine check risked turning into a catastrophe for them. And, in a moment that would change their lives, they would discover that they had just entered a world they had never suspected existed. The two police officers, Mike and Jackson, had stopped the family car a few minutes earlier. The mother, sitting in the passenger seat, was trying to calm her children who were cowering in their seats, their eyes wide open in fear. "Sir, could you please get out of the car?" Mike ordered, in a curt tone. The father, calm, slowly left, his hands visible. He knew that every gesture could be interpreted as a threat. He took a deep breath and said, "I assure you, I don't understand why we're being arrested." Jackson sneered. "Oh, you know very well why. This area is under surveillance, and guys like you." Before he could finish his sentence, the father made a slight gesture. Nothing aggressive, just a wave of his hand to defuse the situation. But that simple gesture changed everything. Mike felt a tension he had never experienced before. The man in front of him didn't seem like an ordinary citizen. "Who are you really?" Mike asked, a shudder of doubt running through his voice. The father smiled slightly, almost imperceptibly. "I work for the CIA. Now you'd better release my family and let me go." A heavy silence fell. Jackson paled, realizing the magnitude of their mistake. Mike trembled slightly, unable to hide his panic. Years of racism and prejudice had never prepared them for this moment. "Wait, you are..." Jackson stammered. The father nodded, calm but firm. "Yes. And if you don't want this situation to become catastrophic for both of you, you'd better get away." The tension was palpable. The police officers realized they had just provoked someone with the power to destroy their careers, and much more, in an instant. Without another word, they retreated, fear etched on their faces. The father got back into his car, closed the door, and looked at his children. The family had narrowly escaped a confrontation that could have been tragic. But for Mike and Jackson, that moment marked the beginning of a nightmare they would never forget. No sooner had the family car's tires squealed on the asphalt than Mike and Jackson found themselves alone, breathless and staring blankly. Their father's simple words, "I work for the CIA," still echoed in their minds, like a deadly warning. Mike pulled out his phone and nervously dialed his superior's number. "Captain. I think we have a problem," he stammered. Jackson, meanwhile, tried to convince himself it was just a bluff. But deep down, he knew they had crossed a line they should never have crossed. Meanwhile, in a discreet CIA office in Washington, computer alarms had been triggered. The agents responsible for the agent's protection were monitoring the situation in real time. They had detected suspicious behavior around the undercover agent's car. Immediately, a special team was dispatched to the scene. On the ground, the police officers, still frozen in place, suspected nothing. But within minutes, unidentified vehicles surrounded the neighborhood. The flashing lights and uniforms differed from those of the local police, and an imposing calm descended. An authoritative voice boomed from a megaphone. "Police officers, stand back immediately and leave the situation to the federal agents." Mike and Jackson exchanged a horrified glance. Their arrogance and racism had just brought them face to face with forces beyond their control. The CIA agent, observing the scene from his car, remained impassive. He knew that the humiliation and the lesson these officers were about to receive would be unforgettable. A few hours later, at the police station, Mike and Jackson were interrogated by their superiors and federal agents. Every word, every action had been recorded. They then understood that they had not only broken the law, but also endangered the safety of a CIA agent. The father, meanwhile, had brought his family home safely. He cast one last glance at the police officers, a mixture of calm and unspoken threat. They had learned the hard way that their prejudices had consequences, and that sometimes, underestimating someone could be very costly. A few days later, Mike and Jackson were summoned to court to answer charges of abuse of power and racist behavior during the family's arrest. But this was no ordinary court. Federal agents had taken control of the investigation, and every action taken by the police officers had been meticulously documented. The father, a CIA agent, had decided to let justice take its course, but he left nothing to chance. At the hearing, all the witnesses and evidence presented were irrefutable: videos, audio recordings, detailed reports of the incident. Every lie or exaggeration by the police officers crumbled before the absolute truth. Jackson tried to defend himself, stammering out confused apologies, but Mike remained frozen, unable to find a word. The judge, aware of the seriousness of the incident and the family's sensitive position, showed no leniency. The sentence was immediate suspension, disciplinary investigation, and recommendations for legal action. But the real shock came after the hearing. The CIA agent calmly approached them and said, "You thought you could act with impunity. You humiliated my family and underestimated someone you didn't know. Let's hope this lesson will teach you never to judge someone by the color of their skin again." The police officers, publicly humiliated and stripped of their authority, left the courthouse under the impassive gaze of the citizens and media present. Their names now circulated as examples of racism punished by both the justice system and karma. For their part, the family returned to their normal lives, more united than ever. The children had learned that even in the face of injustice, calm, caution, and courage could transform a dangerous situation into victory. And the father, true to his role as protector, knew that his vigilance had not only protected his family but also taught an unforgettable lesson to those who had dared to underestimate them.